In this video, we discuss why the cost to retire to Florida has gone through the roof and some strategies you can use to deal with it. Coming up next on Holy Schmidt.
Holy Schmidt!
We all have a vision of where we want to live, both today, in the future, and in retirement. For some of us, it means that we live right here because this is where the home is. For others, it means moving to a place like Florida or Arizona, or where the kids are if you're in retirement and you want to follow your kids. But moving to Florida is an option that is quickly disappearing because the cost to move to Florida has gone up dramatically. Historically, Florida has had the option for many people, in fact, most people of all income levels, there was a place to live. That's now changed, particularly housing when it comes to Florida, and the state is now pricing itself more in line with some of the more expensive states in this country. For me, by the way, Florida is the obvious retirement choice. I have family down in Florida. I do business, a lot of business down in Florida. I'm down there quite frequently, and I just like going to Florida for vacation. In short, I know Florida well, and there are 6 things in that state that appeal to just about everyone. The first is, of course, the weather. In Florida, the weather rarely gets below 50 degrees, and because of that, people tend to go there when they don't like the cold. Conversely, people that don't like the cold don't necessarily mind the heat, and frankly, it does get hot in Florida, sometimes in excess of 90 degrees, but for those that can't stand the cold, they probably are okay with the warmth. Next, state income taxes are zero. If you come from a state that does tax your income, this can be huge. It's like winning the lottery for some people. For example, if you're coming from New York has a state income tax up to 10%. If you live in New York City, that's an additional 3 to 4%. So if you are a high income earner living in New York City, you're paying 13 to 14% of your income to the state or the municipality. Florida gathers all of its income from sales tax, which runs at approximately 7.02% on average, and property tax, which runs at 0.8% of the value of the home. And for reference, most property taxes, the average property tax in the United States is 0.99% of the value of the home. And the communities are quite diverse, from ultra-trendy South Beach to ultra-affluent Boca Raton and Naples. There are places you can go that cater to just about everyone in this state. Importantly, if you move to Florida, people want to visit you. It's not a state where you go and people come see you every 10 years. My guess is you would have the same people showing up once a year, once every few years anyway, at a minimum. That's the type of state Florida is. Everybody wants to be there. There's a lot to do in Florida. If you're a golfer, there are over 1,100 golf courses with 46 million rounds of golf played every year in the state, over 1 million boats, and the largest number of marinas on the East Coast. And let's not forget about the restaurants, walking trails, fitness centers, Disney, Epcot, and a variety of other places to go living in the state. And finally, it's a serious business state for those that aren't ready to leave the game, or at least not ready to leave the game completely. And the best part about Florida is that until recently, it was quite reasonable in terms of cost to live there. Florida, up until about 3 or 4 years ago, ran about 80% of the national average. That's a great number, by the way. Hawaii, on the top end, is at 1.75 times the national average, 175% of the national average. So if you want to retire on the beach, you probably don't want to live in Hawaii. Florida, even now, is a better choice financially. But there's a problem, and that is the cost of living. That 80% has gone up, specifically around housing. The reason is because there's been a surge of people moving to Florida as of late. And there's a shortage of housing, at least there was a shortage of housing, and that has caused housing prices to go up dramatically. For example, if you live in Miami, you would have noted that if you're renting anyway, your housing costs have gone up 55% on average between 2021 and 2022. I released a video a few weeks ago called Retirees Spend 80% of Their Income in These 5 Areas, and the number one category was housing. That comprised 36% of the average retiree's spending. The category of housing is comprised of your rent, your mortgage, your taxes, your utilities, and your upkeep. And as the biggest spending category for those in retirement, and frankly those who aren't in retirement in most cases, when the cost of housing goes up, you feel it. By the way, I'll put a link in the description for those that are interested in that video. So what's caused the surge in Florida home prices? Well, first, there's been a massive influx of new residents into the state over the last 3 years, and with that surge comes increasing house prices and increasing rent prices. By the way, stick around to the end because I'll give you my opinion on when price increases will stop in Florida and perhaps even go backwards. Let's discuss the exact details so you're better armed when it comes to making decisions. The state is home to 3 cities in the Sun Belt that had the largest increases in prices in the country. The first is Miami, which had a 55% increase in rents between 2021 and 2022. Next was Orlando, which had a 34% increase and an $1,843 median rental cost. And then there's Tampa, which had a 32% increase to $2,098 in 2022 on average. If you're buying in Florida, the average cost was $407,000. That was up 15% from the previous year. If you were buying a condo, the average cost was $305,000, up 20% from the previous year. However, there are signs that inventory is increasing. We'll discuss this at the end. Florida is one of the top 5 migration states in the country, with 55% of movement traffic coming into the state and 45% leaving the state. This means that for every 100 moves involving the state of Florida, 55 were into the state and 45 were out of the state. Putting actual numbers to it, Florida had the largest number of people migrating to the state, coming in at 318,000. By the way, number 2 was Texas, coming in at 231,000, and North Carolina came in number 3 at plus 100,000. On the flip side, California had the largest number of net losses, with 343,000 people leaving the state. New York was number 2 with 300,000 people leaving the state, and Illinois was number 3 with 142,000 people leaving the state. All of this data comes from the National Association of Realtors, by the way, so it is quite accurate. Of course, housing costs aren't the only costs to go up in Florida. When the country is running at about 6% inflation, other costs are going up as well. But in Florida and any popular state, when there's inflation, there's generally more inflation in the state that is popular. So which costs go up? Anything that requires people, at least it seems so in this day and age with a shortage of labor. Think about things like restaurants, medical services, etc. Now, what can you do about all of this? First, note that Florida had the perfect storm when it came to house price increases. We were in the middle of a pandemic where people were not only not going into the office, they were told they can't go into the office, so they were forced to work from home for months, even years on end. Well, if you're forced to work from home, and home can be anywhere that Zoom is, Florida is a great place to go. Second, the state's general aversion to lockdowns attracted a large number of people that didn't want to live in a state that required lockdowns. And finally, the cost of building materials were going way up because there was a shortage of labor. Now, the lockdown restrictions are gone. People are no longer told they have to work from home. In fact, many employers are now requiring employees to come back into the office at least 1, 2, or 3 days a week, if not more. And the cost to build a house has come down because people are back on the line making things like wallboard and lumber. This means the exodus based on lockdowns and working from home has stopped, and we're looking at more normal migration patterns in 2023 and beyond. And with it is a normalization of housing prices, maybe even a reduction or decline in housing prices because of the availability of land and corresponding building material. If you're watching this video from Florida, please let the viewers of this video know what your thoughts are on the rising prices there. Just put your comments in the comments section below. Also, if you like this video, please help me help others find this video by giving it a thumbs up. The YouTube algorithm uses the number of thumbs up as its trigger to push a video up higher in the search results, and I want to help as many people as possible. Finally, if you like this video, I've picked another video for you. It's right there. It's called Why Panama is the Best Place in the World to Retire. This is Jeff Schmidt. Thanks for watching.